Hi there, and welcome to the Play Therapy Circle. Before we begin, please note this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not provide therapeutic advice, and listening does not create a client-therapist relationship. All views expressed are my own, and any case examples shared have been de-identified to protect privacy. If you're seeking personal support, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional in your area. Hi, and welcome to an episode of the Play Therapy Circle. I'm Kylie Ellison, a therapist, clinical supervisor, and play therapy trainer, and I'm so grateful you're here. This podcast is a space for thoughtful, soulful conversations about child-centered therapy, play-based work, and what it means to show up with presence and compassion, both for our clients and for ourselves. Whether you're a seasoned play therapist, a student just starting out, or someone deeply passionate about working with children, you belong here. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Play Therapy Circle podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Ellison, and I am so glad you are here. You guys, I am so excited. This is momentous. This is our very first. She's rolling her eyes already. This is a good start. This is our very first interview on the Play Therapy Circle podcast, and I could think of no one better suited as our immortal first host than the incredible Dr. Jodi Mullen. She's paying me to say that, by the way. You guys, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I would like to introduce Dr. Mullen now because she really needs no introduction. Her work is incredible and speaks for itself. But let me try. I want to introduce her as a professor in the Counselling and Psychological Service Department at SUNY Oswego in New York, where she has been a counsellor educator for nearly 30 years, you guys. This is somebody who is very qualified. And for over 2 decades, she coordinated the SUNY Oswego's mental health counselling and play therapy programs. She's the founder and director of the Integrative Counselling Services with offices across central New York, and is a registered play therapy supervisor and CCPT Master. She is internationally sought after speaker, trainer, and supervisor, and has trained play therapists and mentored them literally all over the world, including me, you guys, including me. She's authored numerous books spanning play therapy, supervision, and counseling children and adolescents through grief and loss, and in 2008 was received, and well-deserved, the Association for Play Therapy's Key Award for professional training and education in recognition of her contribution in the field. Please join me in welcoming the incredible Dr. Jodi Mullen. Welcome.
Thank you. I was just thinking, wow, that award from APT was like almost 20 years ago. So yeah, I've been at this a while.
So, wow. Yeah. Whenever you start doing the maths like that, you kind of go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Carry the one. What does that mean? How old I am? The
Yeah.
years tick by. Hey, the years tick by.
Mhm.
Oh, I am so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I'm going to let our listeners know we did book this once before, and I forgot. Which again, tracks, guys, tracks. So let's dive in, because I know all of you are so incredibly interested to hear Dr. Mullen's knowledge and expertise. What you will notice, though, is Jodi and I have been connected now. How long have we been connected? I want to say, ooh, wait, when did we start doing supervision? Maybe 3 years or 4 years? No, it wouldn't be that long, would it?
Oh, I was going to say longer.
She's like, it feels like longer.
It's
Um,
it's
mm.
at least 5 years.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. What's that thing that they say that if you have been friends with someone for more than 7 years, you're like friends for life? I don't know if that's a thing.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, maybe it's just an Australian thing.
Yeah, no, well, I think I've heard it here on this side of the planet. But the other thing that I will say is kind of freaking me out a little bit is every time you're calling me Dr. Mullen, because that's not what,
She's like, we never do that. We call each other Jodi
no,
and
we don't
Kylie.
do that.
She's like, stop that.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do that. This is the
Okay.
great thing, guys, when we talk about our tenets of CCPT being congruence, empathy, and unconditional positive regard, that lives in the supervisor supervisee relationship as well. So, what I love the most about Jodi is that she will pull me up on stuff, and that's a good thing. Good thing.
Yes,
And
you
vice
really
versa.
enjoy it.
Vice versa, when we can be congruent and authentic. Um, Look, I want to start off our conversation, if that's okay, to ask you my first question here around how
Okay.
you're feeling about being on this side of the microphone all of these years later and all of these years of supervision calls.
Yeah.
Tell me, you have seen the evolution of obviously my practice, but the bigger play therapy circle um,
Mhm.
community as well. So tell me your thoughts. What would you initially like to say about that?
Well, first of all, I like to say that it is so great, how much it has evolved, right? Like, because when I started doing play therapy in 1994, is that
Seven.
1994? Yeah. So in 1994 is that people didn't know what it was, and even and people still don't. And I don't mean like people out in the world. I mean people in the like in our mental health professional community.
Yes.
So that there is now like you can find boatloads, heaps and heaps of information about play therapy. I mean, that is amazing to me because that means people are interested and sort of admitting that we don't know what we need to know about working therapeutically with children. So that that people are familiar even with the term play therapy is wonderful. And that people are seeking out enough so that you have an audience for your podcast. Like, again, all over the planet, like that's such good news. I think even more so because it is that important, is that people are also looking for specific play therapy related to theoretical orientations and
Yeah,
approaches,
good point.
that there's a body of evidence that did not exist when I started,
That's true.
um,
That's
that
true.
that is connects us to the research. And I mean for CCPT that it's evidence-based. But one of the things that like, and you've definitely heard me say it like short of a million times, is that if you don't follow it to the model, if you don't have fidelity to the model,
Mm.
then it is not evidence-based. Nothing is, right?
Hmm.
So I think that people's interest in it is really emerged is, I mean, like I couldn't be happier about that. But
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
think the how I would want to bracket that is that most people
Mm.
who do play therapy say that they do child-centered play therapy, but if you don't have fidelity to the model, and I think this is where you're saying I hold you accountable. Is don't,
Yeah, you do.
and you're
Hmm.
not doing child-centered play therapy.
Mm.
So you're
Mm.
either doing it or you're not. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting that you say that too, because I've only, I always say that I'm in my infancy, 11 years in, and I look to the context of Australia as well, that, 11, 10, 11 years ago, it again wasn't something that was largely known about in our community. There wasn't many play therapists practicing at the time. So, yeah, you've really seen that evolution both in the US and across the globe. But
Yeah.
yeah, that resonates with me too, that it's something that continues to grow and has so much room for growth in the future.
Mhm.
So there's so many people listening to the podcast that want to know more. Yeah. Ah, awesome. Hey, I want to ask you a really interesting question. Are you ready?
Ooh,
She's like,
okay.
what is this? Okay.
Yes,
If
I don't
someone,
know.
you ready? If someone had
Yes,
told 25-year-old Jodi that you'd still be doing this work 3 decades later, what would you have said?
I believe them.
Oh, this.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
makes you say that? What makes you say that?
Also, well, two things I want to say. One is that when you're like, I don't know what to expect for your questions, is such a
She's like,
parallel process to what it is like to be a play therapist and a mental health counselor and a
right?
supervisor.
We
Like,
live
let's see what's going to
right.
happen here.
Oh my gosh.
So I love that. I I think not I think I know
Mm.
that this is my course. 25-year-old was sure she wanted to work with children, but I
Yes.
didn't have a pathway
Yeah.
to work with children until I found play therapy. And then once I found child-centered play therapy, I honestly and I say it all the time, like I can't imagine doing
Yeah. Same.
anything differently. And I think because I conceptualize all of my clients, regardless of age, because I
Mm.
do work with adolescents and adults,
Yeah.
but regardless of age, I think of all of my clients as teachers and that they're in my life for a particular reason,
100%.
to teach. I think that just allows me to feel as passionate, maybe even more so, to be honest,
Mhm.
more passionate as I did at 25, but I have more confidence now at 56. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And you really can sort of describe, I guess, how you feel like your practice has evolved because I know when we connect with people in the play therapy space, but also in the training space, that there's so many challenges, obviously, that they first encounter moving into this approach. But it's something that I often like to share is that with that experience, I feel like you can only learn so much, if that makes sense. And then it's kind
yeah.
of the on the ground learning of all of the clients that we connect with. Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to have like all of those things happen. I get a
Hmm.
lot of questions from both my students at the university, but also from people that I'm training and supervisees about like these kind of what about if this happens? What about if that happens? And I
Mm.
always smile when I think about it because oftentimes the things that they're asking about are things that never happen. But it
Yeah.
speaks to all the things that we're scared, scared about. And as you develop and evolve and grow as a play therapist, and for
Mm.
what we're talking about, is you start to learn that
Mm.
if you trust your not just the process, but yourself and the child that you're working with, that all of those things will come together.
Mm.
And if you have a theory, which you must, that you're grounded in, you always can go back to that. You always go back to your anchor. So a lot of times, I will tell again, my students, my trainees, my supervisees is when in doubt, reflect the feeling, right? Like
Oh
you
my
can
God, that's what I
always,
say.
that's always something you can go back to. Always,
Yes.
always
Yes.
save you. Yeah.
Yes. Why do you think that is? I'm keen to hear your thoughts when we talk about reflecting feelings as being that kind of go-to for, all other spaces where we might feel lost. It's always about going back to the feelings. What do you think that's
I
about for
think
you?
because it
Yeah.
always gives a person a level of voice. Like
It's
you
that
always
empathy. Mm.
are highlighting. You're always able to highlight what you see or experience from that other person in a way that makes
Mm.
them feel seen, heard, understood.
Yeah.
Even if you get it wrong, like
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. So even if I reflect, like you are so upset about that and you're not really upset, like
Mm-hmm.
you still feel like, oh, she's trying, which is
Mm-hmm.
more than I think,
There you
especially for children,
go.
more than they typically experience.
Yeah, yeah, because I do think that's one of the biggest skills that often beginning play therapists struggle with is that reflecting feelings. And my
Mhm.
sort of take on it, I'm keen for your thoughts too, is oftentimes I wonder if it's a vulnerability kind of factor of I need to go into this space, not I need to, but there's an importance around going into the space and holding the child's story and hearing the child's story, but that also requires that I show up authentically congruently, and I almost want to say vulnerably as well, so that I can really pick up on and connect with their feelings as well. Does that make sense? Like that's where I
Yes,
sort of sit
because
with it. Yeah.
well,
That makes
I
sense.
think it's, I mean, I think it's one thing. I think this is true of counselors and mental health professionals, regardless of age, is that
Mm.
like nobody's coming to tell us about the good stuff that's going on in
Yeah.
our lives, right? Sometimes we get that as like an added bonus, but to be able to recognize and hold that, obviously, there's something about that, like something about being able to do that that is a vulnerability. Like
Yeah.
we know things that other people um, aren't privy to, and the way we
Yes.
think about it really dictates. I think again, going back to your question about 25-year-old me, right? Is that recognizing that when you have that ability to do that, that it does not belong to you, and that it's
Mm.
actually an honor, not a burden. And so I think that's really important. Thank you for that facial
Mm. Yeah, I
expression.
loved it. I
I
was like,
think
an honor, not a burden. I love that. I'm
yeah,
writing
I
it
think
down. Yeah.
that when we get weighed down with it or when it becomes too much, it's because we're taking it on and now it's a burden versus an honor where I think being connected to the reflection is being able to like I see that, right? Like I
Yes.
see that, I feel that, I sense that. I whatever your sensory word is there,
Yeah.
I think that there's such power in that.
Mm. Oh, I love it. I love it. I want to talk to you about kind of that moment where you felt like this is it. Like this is the work that I want to do. This is because I often share this is not a good story, but we're authentic, right? And we're congruent.
Yeah.
So I always share about how when I first did my course in my first workshop, one of the things that I couldn't do was limit setting. I'm very like transparent with that, right? Is that like when I would try and do the practices in the groups, I vividly remember that memory of sitting in really large groups together and we were all going around and trying and everyone else could do the limit setting, but I was like a deer in headlights. I was like, I can't, like, what's the words, what I need to do. And I remember just being like so frustrated with the fact that this was something that I really wanted to do and I couldn't do it. And so I think that
Mhm.
that's the moment where I was like, oh, this is something that means a lot to me and I want to
Yeah.
invest in this and I want this to be, I want to dive deeper. I want to understand it so that I can be the best play therapist I can be. So I always kind of share that. It's not actually a very positive story, actually, if you think about it. It's like, well, she didn't know how to do limit setting. But I wonder if there was
How would you
obviously
naturally
not a moment like
know how to
that,
do
but what did you have a
that?
moment?
I so for me it was that you know according to Axeline's eight basic principles, you have to accept the child exactly as they are, right? And that
Mm,
is you know, it's right there in the top um, of the list. And
yeah.
the way that Axline wrote the list wasn't just a list and they're in random order; they're in order of importance. And so for me, accepting the child exactly as they are meant, oh, I can't give away what I don't have, so I'm gonna have to accept myself, which was something that certainly 25-year-old me struggled with but it's
Yeah.
like a constant struggle. So, and takes constant. It's like practice. It reminds. It's to me metaphorical to like yoga, right? Is like you never get perfect at it, but with practice you get better at it. And so for me that was like I really worked on myself both in and out of therapy in order to be able to even if I couldn't do it for long periods of time, I could do it for a play therapy session, one session
Yeah.
at a time that I could walk in that room and accept myself. And then that felt so amazing that I was like, maybe I can bring this outside of the room. But I knew that in
Mm.
order to do that for children, I
Yeah.
had to do that, you know, for myself.
I think
And
that's
I
so
think that that
interesting.
underlies even supervision and training.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm like, oh, this is so nice that we align with so many things. And we've, for all the listeners out there, we don't go this deep with conversations. Normally, we're doing like clinical reflections, right, of our clients, or I'm coming to Jodi saying, oh my God, just tell me that I haven't made a mistake with this. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And she's very good. She has all of the resources, all of the knowledge. But I agree with you. And what I wanted to say was that I feel like there is so much growth in us that happens alongside the work that we do with kids, and that I'm not the same person I was 10, 11 years ago. And how cool is that? Like, it's not necessarily the immediate kind of intention of why you become a play therapist, but
No.
it's like this incredible kind of, I was going to say byproduct. That's not a good word. I don't know how you describe it, but it's like this gift, I don't know, that you go into it to say, I'm going to help support children. And then here comes this wonderful journey of growth and development for you too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. That's
I
kind of my take.
I
Mm,
think in some ways
mm,
that's because at least the way that I make sense of that is because a lot of like what who we are as a play therapist for the kids that we work with, we didn't have that. You didn't have a Kylie, I
oh,
didn't have
that's
a
so
Jodi.
true.
And so when we're like I do really think that, you know, our child parts, our inner children, like however you want to conceptualize that
Yeah.
is a witness and a consultant in the playroom. And so when we allow for that, I think that that is where, I know you were really searching for your words there, but I feel like that's part of what you were saying. Part of what you were saying is like,
Yeah.
it is a bit of a byproduct. It is a bit of a gift. We're like, there are parts of us that are along for this journey too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. If you were, because obviously some of our listeners are brand new to the profession, and are learning about child-centered play therapy for the first time, if you were given that task of describing the heart of child-centered play therapy to someone who's never been in a playroom or is just starting to understand it, how would you describe child-centered play therapy, building off what we've just been talking about? Anything you would
Oh, that
add?
it's a relationship.
Yes. Yes. That's a misconception, right? Is that it's like you learn the skills and you deliver the skills in the therapy room, but it's more than that, right? Yeah. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I do a lot of supervision and training, and I
Yeah.
think about what are some of the most common things, right, that people ask in supervision, that ask in training, and frequently there are people that have less experience, but not always. Sometimes these are seasoned professionals, and
Yeah.
they ask or they conceptualize something like this: I'm not doing enough.
Mm.
Like, what else should I be doing with them? Do you have any techniques that I can use with this kid because they are showing up selectively mute,
Hmm.
for instance?
Hmm.
Um, and I think that we get in a bind there
Hmm.
because we're looking for something to do, but and I'll have a story about this. So
Oh my God, I love
hold,
stories.
please hold, story coming. But I think it's really about the relationship, and that's where the healing is. And I know
Yes.
that for some people that might sound like very woo woo or very like, oh, you're such a therapist kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the
It's the
research
truth.
also is consistent with that. And I'm really, really lucky because in my 32 years of practice, I've been in the same community. And I know you know this story,
Hmm.
and this is probably it probably has happened now to me about a dozen times, is when I say goodbye to a child that I'm working with,
Yeah.
I always say, you can always come back. And I mean
Yes.
it,
Oh my
right?
God, I
So if
literally
I'm
said that.
working with an 8-year-old
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
as they transition into their new school, or there's a new baby, or there's a divorce, or they are going to be moving, their best friend moves away, anything like that,
Yeah.
I will make time in my schedule for that person to come back, always.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that has happened about a dozen times now is I have people come back
Uh-huh.
who I saw as children who are adults.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it's so interesting because what they all say in different ways is is just that. It's about the relationship. So I just had somebody return who I used to see when they were 9. They're
Yeah, that's
37 years
wild.
old, right? And how come you return at 37? Because what they share, and of course I'm changing a little bit of this, so it's
Mm,
not
mm, mm,
Bible, but
mm.
what they said is like, I felt so connected to you when, like, I knew you knew me. And
Oh,
the thing is when we're working with children in play therapy, the children are not going to say that. So if
no.
you need that kind of feedback, you're not
Yeah.
going to get it. I'm in a really unique and lucky, blessed position that have had this happen a couple of times over the years. But I've never had a child say to me, you know what, Jodi, you've been so incredibly helpful. I feel like a new person. I'm really able to navigate the challenges of my life. But my adult clients say things like that all the time. Your child clients aren't going to say that. So that's where it's more than trusting the process. It's also faith in the process, faith in the child, faith in the relationship that you cultivated with that little one.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that is like such a big moment of what our listeners needed to hear, because I know that that's something that comes up a lot in conversations I have with supervisees is this, does this, I did an episode recently on it, am I making a difference? Does this matter? Like, am I actually making any headway here when it doesn't feel like I'm seeing much change in the playroom, or I have an experience with a child and then they have to, for whatever reason, disengage, obviously moving out of town, loss of funding, whatever that looks
Right.
like. And you sit there as a play therapist and you're like, did that even matter? Like what I just did? Did I make a difference? And that's exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Because
you,
you're not going to get that feedback.
there we go. We all need to hear this. It's not going to happen
Mhm.
in real time. They're not going to say that. And even if they were somebody that says that, you're probably questioning it, right? Because they're probably
Yeah.
like trying to please you, or like trying
Right.
to, you know what I mean? Like there's always like a motive behind it potentially, where they're not necessarily, kids can't necessarily make those big, deep reflections. Some of them, I guess, can, but a
Yeah,
lot of
but
them
I think
don't.
they leave us these little clinical breadcrumbs, right? Like
Mm.
they want to come back, right?
Yeah.
They get excited to see you. I remember saying to this one like 6-year-old little boy at the end of the session, I said, "Our time is up. I'll see you next time." And he goes, "I can't come tomorrow. I have school." And and I said, "Oh, you thought that your next time to come would be tomorrow?" And he goes, "Yeah. Don't you want to see me every day?" Like, right? And so that just is like that's how they feel. And I know I think that I've shared this example session with you. I was like recording a session that I had permission to record and I have permission to share. It's probably now from at least 15 years ago.
Oh,
And in
wow.
the middle of the session, this little boy who's 4 years old stops playing, just stops. We were in the middle of a pool noodle sword fight, and he says, "Jodi, how come you love me so much?" And like it's like those little moments that you have to hold on to. That it actually makes me really sad that he said that, because he said, "How come you love me so
Mm,
much?" I
right?
want to also be clear. I never said to him, "I
I
love
love
you."
you.
That
Yeah.
would, be
Hmm.
super confusing and like from my
Ethically.
perspective,
Yeah.
unethical and all the things. But I do love my clients. Like I don't have another word to express what it's like with them. So when I'm saying it's the relationship, I'm like full on in the
Yes.
relationship, and
Yes.
people do feel that. And I mean, I think there's that beautiful quote from Maya Angelou that I am not going to try and say because I'm going to get it wrong, but it's basically about it's how you make people feel that they
Yes.
remember, and that's exactly what we're doing in play therapy.
Yeah. And don't you find too that the kids that challenge you the most are the ones that are, I don't know if this is coming across the way that I want to say it, the ones that you don't necessarily connect with initially, or that have really challenging beginning kind of presentation of behaviors. I feel like that's a very clinical term. It doesn't sit well with me, but it's probably the best way to describe it. That I feel like are the most rewarding when you build that relationship with them, because it teaches you something about yourself. Usually it's around, like, for me, it's usually around like patience, or
Mhm.
keeping an open mind, or
Yeah.
like all of those qualities that we start to build in ourselves, because this is a child that we come into the room with and we're like, I don't know if I've got like a common ground with you here. Like I don't, like I can see you, but like what is going on? Do you ever find that as well? Yeah, that those most
It's so
challenging
funny
ones to
that
connect. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that. One, because I think that what one of the roles that we wind up having as play therapists is we really like even adore the children that no one else does, right? Like so, and I
Yes.
know that's like I'm being exaggerating there, but the kids that annoy everyone like that they're around, we really value, and they know that. And I think about the kids that push me away. Not I'm not talking about physically, but
No,
like
no.
relationally, and then just being able to stick with them because I know that they're pushing me away because it's too scary. Relationships are too scary because I'm going to reject them. I'm going to abandon them. I'm going to die. Like all the things that have happened to them. And I
Yeah.
think what you're talking about right there, Kylie, is being on when you get to the other side of that, how like that is the sweet spot. And you can really
Yeah.
feel feel it, see it, experience it.
Yep.
And you can see how the child is doing that too.
But that's really the definition of trusting the process, right?
Mm.
Like that, this is what we kind of learn. You teach at university. We learn in our trainings that trust the process, trust yourself, trust the child, trust the process. But that's that faith that you were talking about earlier. I really love that word because it's like it's not just about following the textbook or following the guidelines, but it's actually a deep kind of commitment to this child is really challenging right now, but I have kind of conceptualized it as this is just a season in their work, like this
Mhm.
season of them, maybe being highly aggressive, testing physical limits, testing physical boundaries, whatever that looks like. But it's not
Right.
going to be their whole journey in play
No.
therapy.
And they have
Yeah.
to do it to make sure that you can stick with them,
Yeah.
right? Like they're saying like I'm gonna need, right? It's they don't need to see your resume or your
No, they
CV or
don't.
your degrees. They need to see that you're gonna stick with them if they show you the most unpleasant parts of self. Adults do that in therapy in too, but it's
Yeah.
just done in a more sophisticated, developmentally like appropriate way that we can then, that we can talk it out. With kids, they're gonna show us that, and
Yeah.
we have to do the same thing that we would with our adults. Say like, uh, I'm gonna be with you. Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to leave this relationship or abandon you or reject you, or even if you show me that
Yeah.
sometimes you can be cruel.
Yeah. On that point, is there a this again? I'm trying to put my words together this morning. For all of you listening, it is 5:38 in the morning in Queensland. Joni looks amazing because it's the afternoon where she is, but I have been up for about 40 minutes. So the brain is ticking over. So, when we talk about like the most challenging presenting issue, if you could kind of think of uh, and I almost feel like it's not doing justice to the child because we are looking at one presenting issue as opposed
Yeah.
to seeing the whole child, right? But if you could think of in your career that one child that's really tested your skills, I guess, and has been really challenging from the beginning, what would that be? Because often people will say, just to kind of answer ahead of time,
Yeah.
often people will say selective mutism can sometimes be a presenting issue that children, therapists in the playroom struggle with. I have no trouble with it, and I don't know whether that's just because I'm a little left of center, but I like that presentation because I see it and I think that's a child that has used all of their tools in their toolkit and they literally have like their bodily functions and their verbal communication left in their toolkit to express their fight or flight, their high anxiety, their distress, right? And so they're literally showing me in real time how they're doing. And I believe that there is a whole child and a whole personality and a whole person underneath that selective mutism. So I see it as my mission then to provide kind of that sense of safety and support and connection so that they can be their true self. So selective mutism isn't necessarily one that I struggle with, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is one that you kind of go, uh-oh?
Okay. Well, first, I feel like I can't not.
Yeah,
So I in the time that we've known each other and all the things that we've
yeah,
talked about,
yeah.
I don't, did you know that I was selectively mute when I was a kid?
No, what?
Yeah.
No,
I know, totally making up for it now.
it
But
doesn't.
I was.
Mm.
And part of that was, and what you find with a lot of kids with selective mutism
Uh,
is that they also have some sort of like, they need a speechy, right? They need that there's something else
um,
going on for them. And so I was definitely one of those
sure.
kids.
That's true.
And
That's fair.
so, yeah, I'm like, oh, please, that's nothing, right? Like when they come in. And
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that makes it such like not a challenge besides that I use my internal like child consultant for to work with them is the other thing that makes it not a challenge is they're still communicating, right?
Mm,
I think that's like the whole
100%.
thing of play therapy. I'm not trying to get them to talk like every other adult is in their lives. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's true.
no, I don't see those kids as a challenge. I think the kids that frequently show up as a challenge to me, I was really racking my brain as you were saying this.
Yeah,
I'm like, I can't think of a
that's
particular
okay.
disorder, and I
Mm.
try not to really think in terms of that because they're just usually just lists of symptoms and
Right.
doesn't
I know this
doesn't
is what I was trying to
yeah.
do it, but I like
Yeah.
I tried.
Um, I guess I guess I don't even know. I'm like really racking my brain.
Yeah.
I think kids that initially are I these would be challenging for me. That kids that initially are like snub the play therapy. So like,
Yes.
or the play therapy, like particularly the approach. Like I can remember
Mm.
a child coming in and being like, "You just tell me what to do," and I have ways to answer that,
Mm.
right? Like you, oh, it feels really uncomfortable to you for you to choose, or unsafe for you
Sure.
to choose. Ways to respond to that. But the one child that I'm thinking of was like time after time after time after time, would be like, no, no, like they had no agency. I think like
Mm.
they were so they were so obedient and compliant that
Yes.
I couldn't like this is such a weird thing I'm about to say,
No, no,
but I
go.
like couldn't find them. I couldn't find them in there.
Oh, I
And
like that.
that was the challenge. It was like I don't know. I couldn't get a sense of them because they were they were in I don't think this was a traumatized, it was a long time ago, but I don't
Mm.
think this was a traumatized child, but it is that pleasing,
People pleasing,
not as a
yeah.
trauma response, but that like I'm supposed to do what adults tell me all the time kind presentation.
Oh, yeah. We
It's
see
actually
here,
really scary to me also. I
right?
get alarmed by it.
Correct, because that I feel like they're quite vulnerable, right, to being kind of manipulated by others. Yeah, we see a real kind of transition at the moment of a lot of kids presenting with that learned helplessness because
Mm,
I can talk locally here in Brisbane. We have a population of parents who have swung kind of the other way from that really punitive parenting over to
yeah,
like, I just want
do
my kid to be
whatever.
happy and I'll just do whatever I can to help them. Yeah, you've seen that too. Yeah, I feel like
Yes,
that's something we see here. And it's that
yes,
similar thing. It's hard then because you're kind of like, no, you can actually do this. I believe in you and your ability to open that can of
right.
Play-Doh. Like this is okay. You're going to be okay. But it's they're so used to deferring to adults to do all of that for
Mhm.
them. Yeah, yeah, that's really challenging too. Hey, I want to ask you. I want to pivot into the supervision space. Let's do
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay. So I have a question for you. What do you
Mm.
look for in a supervisee that tells you they're going to be really good at play therapy? Not that this is
Oh,
anything personal.
I love this question.
What
Okay,
tells you
so
they're going to be good? Yeah, go.
um, I think vulnerability. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, sure.
that's like as a place to start with recognizing that they're not just like anything. You're not going to be good at this at first. Like you're just not. Like
Yes.
it is ungraceful. This is not the way. Um, and I've worked with people in really diverse, in terms of really a diversity of cultures, like everything from people who are part of very like the Orthodox Jewish culture to people in Kenya to people in Ireland, like, so really diverse in terms of like just the way that families work, right? And I think that that's like the common thing is that we have to accept that we're not going to be good at this at first. And I think, many people who winds up in the space of being professionals
Mm.
in this capacity are people who are used to being good at things, like at least
Yeah.
good academically, right?
Yes.
And then, and so I think I notice it's particularly difficult for people, for supervisees and students who are really strong academically, and and they this becomes really difficult for them when they're not good at it at first. Uh,
Hmm.
and so I think
Hmm.
that being able be to not be good at it. And also, I would say the other thing that
Yes.
usually tells me somebody is going to be good at this is their ability to take feedback. Um,
Yes.
to be able to be able to say, I would say self-awareness, other awareness are things that I look for.
Mhm.
A sense of humor, like for
You need it
real.
with kids, like, right?
Yeah, like
Like, yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes, because if you take yourself too seriously, the work too seriously, your child clients too seriously, it's grim. It's so grim the reason children come to play therapy.
Totally.
Um, and it's and very dark and dreadful, really. And so having a sense of humor, I think is becomes a really like it really is a key to
Yeah.
success. And
Yeah.
I know just being around a lot of other seasoned play therapists who I respect, we laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's like a really important thing to be able to have that balance. So you're not taking on it and it's not bogged down. I
Mm.
also think like a quality that I look for in a supervisee
Mm.
is part of that vulnerability is to not be afraid to like it's kind of what I like about kids in play therapy, to not be afraid to sort of question me, to say like, I don't see
Yeah.
it that way, to, to be challenging.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
because
Yep.
because I think it's important to be, to be able to be authentic. And I think that's one way you show up as both authentic and vulnerable, which is what
And
we ask our clients to do too.
I was just going to say, both in the playroom and in the
Yeah.
supervisee supervisor relationship as well.
Yeah.
I always say that CCPT lives everywhere. I really do think that
Mhm.
once you kind of embrace this framework for practice, it literally kind of, filters out into so many parts of your life, right?
Yeah, I don't think that you can keep it in the playroom because then it's more than that. CCPT is not just like an approach, a set of skills like that, like a
Yeah.
manualized thing. It's actually a philosophy also. And so I
Yes.
don't know how you live by a philosophy clinically and then not outside, because then I don't know where the authenticity lands
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, I have to pick your brain before we've got a few minutes left and I've got a couple more questions. But one of the
Okay.
questions I wanted to get your take on, because it's something that I talk a lot about in the podcast, is this concept around countertransference. I unfortunately live in that psychodynamic space a little bit too much these days. I've resisted it for many years because I'm not necessarily a big fan of Freud's techniques, but unfortunately, often the roads lead back to Freud and
Mhm.
countertransference. So, what would you say that you wish more play therapists understood about countertransference in the playroom? Because it's something I try and describe in my episodes and in the work that I do, because I feel like it influences certainly our understanding of what kids are trying to tell us in play therapy. But what's your take? Tell me your thoughts. I haven't actually asked
So
you this ever before.
no.
Let's go. Let's
So
go.
first of all, I I don't know how you do this work and not buy
Mm,
into the constructs of transference and countertransference. It's just so, and I hear lots of other people who I respect in the field, especially the
mm.
leaders in terms of the child-centered field, talking about it.
Yeah,
So I don't
good.
think that just because it's of where its origins are, is that we should be dismissive of it.
Yeah.
I think for me, again, I'll go back to this like terminology, is I think countertransference is a consultant in the
Mm.
room, right? And it's like, all right, what is this? Why is this? Right? And
Yeah.
uh, and I strongly, because we're in a relationship, if I am feeling something, I even if it's my like when it's mine, I'm like, wow, this child is that good of a communicator that
Yes.
they just got me to this place. And so how do I use that to respond to them fully, to respond to them relationally, to respond to them authentically, to respond to them with that knowledge that comes from whatever they went like beep and whatever
Yes.
button they pushed. I, I
Yes.
don't know. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, 100%. And I was tying kind of the connections together while you were talking around what we sort of began the conversation talking about around reflecting feelings and that vulnerability that we need in the playroom and connecting with all of that.
Mhm.
And I don't think I find sometimes now at this sort of stage of my career that I almost have to kind of tell myself, okay, we need to park any thoughts that we've got of, the shopping list that we're doing, for
Right.
5 o'clock this afternoon. And I need to really listen, but not listen to say the words that the child is telling me, but what are they telling me
Yes.
unconsciously through that experience of that transference and countertransference. So
Yeah.
it's something I have to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think where uh, if you're going to stick with fidelity to the model, it is
Yeah.
not about how you are feeling. That is the child communicated something to you
Yep.
and now you feel a certain way, but they want you to know that,
To know
right?
that.
So it's the
Exactly.
difference between
Yeah.
like you, oh, this is actually even hard for me to say. Like you made me feel scared, That's not what I'm talking about. I want to be really clear to all your listeners. I am not saying in any
Yeah.
way that I would say that. I would not say that to a child. It's not child-centered.
Mm.
What I would say is you want me to know what it is like to be so scared, right? Because that's what they're communicating to
Mm.
us. They want us to know that. It just got tangled up in our own stuff. And that's how you use it as a consultant, not like
Yeah.
it's not that child's responsibility. They have a responsibility in the relationship, but it is a different level of responsibility in the relationship than
Yeah.
we have.
And that's what you're kind of talking about. We are having the incredible opportunity of connecting with each other in October
Yeah.
when the amazing Jodi comes to Australia for our conference. But that ties in nicely with that concept around burnout and compassion fatigue. And,
Yes.
when you take on those feelings, but you don't necessarily, as you're talking about, understand how to kind of hold it, respond to it, reframe it, whatever that looks like, so that you're not carrying that as you walk out of the playroom, right? Would you agree? Or, yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
100%. I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about it, right, like, so only one of us has to be congruent in the relationship, and it has to be us. Only one of us has
Yeah.
to be regulated in the relationship, but it has to be us,
So
right? So
true.
we have that level of responsibility, and it is different. And if that gets tangled up, it's like, yes, 100%, that is not going to just lead to compassion fatigue. That is going to lead to really poor, perhaps even unethical, certainly unprofessional work, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, it's so important that we have a constant eye and are constantly, right? Like, it should always be, honestly, in our background music of checking in, checking in, checking in, because there's too few of us who are willing to, who really like children in the
Uh-huh.
way that we do,
Yeah.
who get them, who specialize in
Mm.
this. There's just too few of us on the planet.
Mm.
And so it is so important that we're doing all the things that we need to do so that we can keep showing up in the way that we do. And that is part of why, I
Mm.
wanted very much to be able to be around other people doing this work and talk about, like, how do we keep doing what we're doing, because it's so important. And I actually get that question quite often, mostly from my graduate students about, after with more than 3 decades of doing this, that, they'll say, like, how are you still so
I was
passionate about?
literally going to ask that. What do you
Yeah,
say?
okay.
What do you
It's like,
say? Yes.
I think is partly because of that, is partly because of being able to say, like, I know that is not mine, but I also have the honor and the responsibility of demonstrating to that child, I get that, right?
Yeah.
I get it without owning it.
Yes. I get it without owning it.
And
Whoa.
I,
So
sorry,
many
that's
pearls of
funny.
wisdom. There are so many catchphrases. I've already thought of having faith in the process, the honor that it is. These are all going to be on t-shirts, you guys, at the conference. Anyway,
You can have a whole collection.
collection of t-shirts. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, I've
But
interrupted your train of thought.
no, 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 no. It's just that it's that important because I think that
Yes.
that conveys that, like, that I can carry, in these moments, I can carry that pain. I can hold it, but I won't hold onto it. It won't darken my soul. I don't, I guess, have another way to say that.
And is for all our listeners out there, as kind of a final question or a message around holding that space and staying motivated in the profession and keeping your passion alive. Is there one tip? Is there one piece of advice that you would give to everyone listening before we finish up for today? Any messages to our listeners?
Yes. Well, I have two things.
Oh, I
Like,
love this.
one, I was thinking how aptly named the play therapy circle is, because it really, you're doing that. So, I hope that the listeners recognize that you're going to make many turns around this circle. It's
There
not
you
like, oh, I
go.
completed the circle.
Uh-huh.
All done. It's
Right.
that the part of the beauty of this is you get to keep learning, you get to keep evolving, just as with each new client that you meet and come connected to. Um,
Yeah.
and so the one, like, words of wisdom, is that what you
I
asked?
love it. Let's do it. Yes, yes, yes. That's what
Okay.
I meant.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Wait, say the question again that you originally said. Can you? Is that possible?
Oh,
I got lost in thinking about the circle. I went around the circle too many times. I got dizzy.
she got, I love that. So I guess it's like, what is that one kind of, yeah, piece of advice or words of wisdom around being able to maintain your passion without,
Oh,
losing your burnout, like losing
I
it to
got
the
it.
burnout. Yeah, okay, great. Go.
I should have wrote it down because it was what
No,
I was
no,
originally thinking.
no, no, it's
Is
good.
you have to prioritize yourself. You like when you have to. We've talked about this. Is you
Yeah,
have to schedule something for yourself. Because if you keep going to that well, give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away, you are not going to have anything left to give away. So
that's
you
it.
have to have non-negotiables. Like my yoga class is a non-negotiable. When I get to a certain time of day, non-negotiable, right? Like just making sure
So
that you
true.
have some no's. Um,
Yeah,
those no's are ways that you care for yourself. I think it's a really easy to fall into the trap of always doing for others because I'll address this in my presentation too, is that is that most that as professional helpers, none of us are just professional helpers. We're also helpers outside of the professional realm. So it's constant, constant, constant. So being able to say no, both professionally and personally, you have to be able to do it. And I'm definitely saying that from a place of like I still need a lot of practice at it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
getting yourself an accountability partner is one way to do that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Jodi, thank you so much for
You're
being our
welcome.
very first inaugural interview. I know that every time I connect with Jodi, I learn something new because that's why I still have her as my supervisor because she's incredible and always has the words of wisdom. I hope all of you listening also really loved connecting with Jodi as well. She's incredible in this space and such a leader in the field, and I'm so grateful to have our connection. So thank you for being here. Look, I just want to remind everyone, please check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your good podcasts. Leave us a message, shoot us an email. We always like to hear from you, and make sure you look after yourselves and each other and go well. And we will hopefully see you in person, Jodi. Well, we will, obviously. You've booked your flights now, so it's a thing
Yeah.
that we're going to see Jodi in October. So for anyone interested in joining us at the conference, we will be at the Ridges in South Bank in Brisbane in October. Remind me of the dates, Jodi. I feel like that should be something I should know. Both of us are
October
like,
23rd.
there we
Hold on. I
go.
have it right in front of
Oh my
me.
God, she's come prepared.
October
Excellent.
24th and 25th.
That is us, 24th and 25th at the Ridges at South Bank in Brisbane. Jump on to our website. We'll put the link in the show notes. We would love to see you there. Jodi, is there one thing that you want to tease about the conference with your presentations, something that you're excited to talk about or share? I know I'm just looking forward to being there and we're just going to chat and yarn for 2 days. But tell me from your perspective, a little bit more like this, but just for 2 days worth.
Um,
What's
I
your
think I'm going to go with some feedback that I get about my presentations and teaching is that, like I, you can count on learning something new,
totally?
but it's more of an experience than it is.
There we
Like
go.
you'll have an experience and you'll learn certainly not just from me, you'll learn from the other people there, and you'll learn from parts of yourself that you were maybe shushing. And so,
Yes.
yeah, so that's my little bit of a tease.
I
That's
love that. And certainly from my perspective, it's bringing our community together and connecting with each other and just sharing our passion and sometimes getting that support in person that we don't necessarily get online. So we can't wait to see you there. We're so excited to have
thank
you.
you.
And again, thank you so much for being here, Jodi. Our listeners, please go well, look after each other, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Join Jodi and Kylie on the 24th and 25th of October in Brisbane at the Ridges South Bank. There are a limited number of tickets available and we want to see you there. We also have our VIP cocktail event on the Saturday evening where Jodi and Kylie will engage in an honest, unscripted dialogue about practice, purpose, and the realities of therapeutic work. Come join the circle. Further information and tickets can be found at kylieellison.com.au.
Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Play Therapy Circle. If anything resonated with you today, I'd love it if you could follow the podcast, share it with a colleague, or leave a short review. It really helps others find our circle. And if you have a topic or question you'd love me to explore, I'd love to hear from you. This space is for you, and I want it to feel like a conversation. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, you belong here.